terms of trade and international competitiveness to entrepreneurship. The Bank of Industry has said that many of the countries, that's Nigeria's SMEs, don't have the habit of repaying loans, saying that its non-performing loan portfolio awarded to entrepreneurs ranges between 80 to 100%. Now, Mr. Olukayode Pitan, the bank's managing director, disclosed during a development workshop that if proper steps were taken, startups can get loans of up to 10 million naira for expansion. So we're going to talk about startups with a co-founder of a startup, Chikodi Ukaiwe, who is the chief executive officer and co-founder at Showlove, joins us right now. Good afternoon. You're very welcome. Thanks for joining us. What's your read on, I guess, funding channels for entrepreneurs and SMEs in Nigeria?
Thank you for that question. So SMEs in Nigeria have a various number of options right now, right? It wasn't always this way. So first of all, we would like to commend the various government agencies for making all these options available to us. But then we still need to talk about the fact that we are still dealing with predominantly high interest rates when it comes to funding SMEs. When you take a look at the likes of the UK and the US, you have just single digits interest rates. But in Nigeria, you are dealing with double digits. Coupled with the infrastructure challenges that we have, access to resources, is quite an uphill battle when it comes to making something out of the funds in which they receive. So it's not really surprising to me to hear that a couple of SMEs will have issues with repaying back the loans. Also, when you take a look at inflation in the country and the rise in poverty levels, it basically shrinks market size, making the target customer base much smaller than projected, especially when I assume when that loan was collected to repay back these loans. So, yeah, that would basically be all my response to be.
Well, what about the funding channels for Showlove? I love the name. What about the funding channels for Showlove? What did you tap into for initial capital and stuff?
Okay, so for the stage in which our business is, which is basically infancy, right? We launched not too long ago. We did a friends and family round. In technology is referred to as a pre-seed. So we basically leveraged friends, family, and a growing community of angel investors. So an angel investor is an individual who has some knowledge, but has even more interest in a particular field and is willing to part with personal funds to grow out that business or help that idea go into fruition.
Great stuff. Now, at the workshop where the MD of the Bank of Industry made that comment, also Unilag's director of the Institute of China Development Studies, Mr. Olufemi Sabir, was saying that he wants to see more entrepreneurs solving more problems in the country. Do you think that that's being done? Do you think entrepreneurs in this space are plugging in where there are problems with their ideas?
So problem is a very relative word. I know this because I used to be a management consultant. And when startups come to me and they come up with a solution, the first thing we ask is, what problem are you solving? And there's something that I've learned in my 13 years in technology, is that problems come in many colors. In product development, there's something we like to say, which is a problem can be divided into three, right? One is a painkiller, right? The second is a vitamin, and the third one is candy. Every product that you know today falls into one of these three, right? For instance, your Netflix, it improves your life, but it's not a staple food. You can do without it, but it improves your life. So you call that a vitamin. Electricity, transport, Uber, food, those are painkillers. Those are the things that we have to, we need to live. And then you take look at stuff like PlayStation. You can very well live your life without a PlayStation, but those are candies. But these are businesses that have done very well because they address a peculiar problem to particular customers, right? So we all have problems, right? But what I assume he meant was that because Nigeria is plagued with a plethora of infrastructural problems, like health, for instance, electricity, I'm sure they would like attention to be put on those. But then we all can't build hospitals, we all can't. Somebody still needs to solve the challenges that the individual customer has. So that would be my response to that.
All right, great. So what about, tell us about Showlove. What problem is that solving?
Okay, yeah.
Which one does it? Is it the candy or is it the what bucket would it fall?
Right. So it's also important to note that there are some products that start off as vitamins. They start off as things that you don't think are necessary until stuff like a pandemic happens, and the only way in which you can run a business is through a Zoom. Right. When you guys can meet in person, it's not that important to have video conferencing, but then when you lock down physical interaction, you can no longer interact. So now you need a Zoom. Zoom is the most desired tool. At Showlove, for instance, I'd like to paint a picture. Right. Every year, Global Report says that $475 billion will be spent on gifts. Right. That's a given. Google also says that 1 out of every 2 people that receive gifts don't like the gifts that they receive.
So they re-gift.
So I mean that's a whopping $200 billion every year spent on gifts that nobody wants. Right? Let's take it down home. Let's talk about Nigeria. Nigeria has a formal retail sector worth about $150 billion. About 6 to 9 billion of that is in e-commerce. Right? So we can only assume that part of that money is going into gifts. Right? So what Showlove does is that Showlove creates an environment where people are able to basically get the gifts that they actually want, right? And gifting is a culture that's not going to go away. It's been around before you and I. It's a fundamental part of human relationships. And that's because it is the most basic way to nurture and strengthen our relationships. So what Showlove does is that it creates digital channels for both SMEs to be able to present their goods and services as gifts, and then people are able to request the things that they actually want. So instead of getting a perfume, for instance, you are able to request a voucher to the shop right across your street, or you are able to request a shawarma from your favorite spot, right? So we are reducing wastage in money for gifting, and we are allowing people to actually get the stuff that they actually want.
Great stuff. Very appropriate since Christmas is around the corner. Very quickly, in about a minute or so, how would you describe the environment for SMEs here in Nigeria? Okay, so I'll talk about it like I'm speaking to somebody who wants to come into entrepreneurship. I'll say there's a lot of problems, but then there's a lot of opportunity. My advice would be to partner, because there's going to be a lot of challenges when it comes to infrastructure, right? We are in an environment that's dealing with double-digit loan rates. I'll give an example of the technology space, for instance. We've come a long way. African startups have been able to raise about $1.2 billion in just the first half of the year. And that's because of the work that some of our colleagues have done before us, especially in the payments industry. So what we have to do now is take advantage of the work that some people have done before us and lead to provide solutions that actually matter. Great stuff. Chikodi Ukaiwe, co-founder and the CEO of Showlove. Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate your insights.